Hi, welcome everyone at the Wagon Brussels. We're very happy today to welcome Jonathan Cornelissen, who is the co-founder and CEO at DataCamp. And maybe I should let you introduce yourself.
Okay. So who amongst you already knows DataCamp or has actually looked at the platform? Okay, so some people. Who amongst you is familiar with Code School or Code Academy or any of these platforms? Okay, so everybody. What the mission of DataCamp is basically to be for statistics and data science, what Code School or Code Academy are for web developments. So we teach people data science, specifically at this point R, but in the future also Python, in an interactive and engaging way. And we have a little under 200,000 users at this point. And we always try to partner with both people in academia or people in business who have experience in certain topics like data manipulation, data visualization, and so on. So that's DataCamp in a nutshell.
Well, at some point, I guess you wanted your teaching skills to become scalable, right? Because we see that when we go on your LinkedIn page, you see that you were PhD at the KUL University. Mm-hmm. And would you please explain a bit more about that?
Yes, so the idea for DataCamp emerged when at the time when I was doing a PhD in statistics and I discovered things like Code Academy and Code School. I thought that's an awesome way to learn. So I was looking for something like that, but to teach statistics and data science, and nobody was providing that. Nobody was building a company around that. So that's why we came together with 3 people. One of them very technical, one of them more oriented towards sales and marketing, and I was somewhat in between. I came from a statistics background, well, the idea came basically from personal experience that it would be a much better way to teach students in an interactive way online instead of answering the same questions all over again in a real-life classroom. I must say, like real-life teaching, like what you're experiencing here, I'm a big fan of that. I went through a coding bootcamp myself, like this one. It's 3 or 4 years ago. Right now, like these Ruby on Rails coding bootcamps are super popular, but 3 or 4 years ago it was relatively new. So there was one in Chicago called Code Academy at the time. It's now called Starter League. It was also, I think, a 3-month program, so it's somewhat similar to what you guys are doing. And that's where I basically learned the basics of web development. And that was great because it allowed me to understand at this point what the technical side is doing, but at that point to develop a very basic prototype.
Okay, so you ended up after your bootcamp building your first MVP, right?
Yeah, a very rough version, I must admit. Yeah.
Okay. So how would you describe the R programming? So what is it specific about it?
So the way you can think about it is what HTML was to the web 2 decades ago, R is to data right now. So R is the most popular statistical programming language. From a programming language point of view, a lot of people think it's inferior. It's somewhat similar to JavaScript, where a lot of people think the language isn't that beautiful, but there are so many libraries that make it super valuable, and the same is true for R. So R is used in a wide range of sectors, ranging from finance to healthcare to technology, and people have written libraries, like an R package, basically. And similar to in Ruby, you have gems that do all kinds of things. So if you want to estimate a financial model, you can count on it that it will be implemented in R already. Just like if you want to do some kind of graph in JavaScript, there will be a library like D3 for that. So I think R is to data what HTML was to the web, and it's becoming hugely popular. It's hard to say because it's an open source language how many people use R, but it's estimated that it's in the millions at this point.
Yeah, well, now let's go back to the data science platform, the DataCamp. Is it really possible for someone who wants to learn about data science, when subscribing to the platform, to learn and after that to be without any prior master degree or something like in mathematics or in statistics, to be well, how can I say it? To be hired as a data scientist?
I think it certainly is. Now I must say it's. So what we've seen is that there's a huge lack of data scientists already, and it's predicted that the shortage of people who know about data science by 2018 in the US alone will be 1.7 million. But that's not only people who are hardcore, so that's like people who are really data scientists. But there's a large group of people that just have to understand how to work with data. Most of our users are actually not people with a math degree who want to be a hardcore data scientist. Most of them are working in finance or in healthcare. And Excel is just not doing enough for them, or their data sets are getting too big. So they need more advanced tools to analyze their data. So we're not only a training platform for data scientists, we're also enabling people to work with data in a more efficient way. So we have a lot of people, for example, who are in a finance role and who want to have a better tool than Excel.
Okay, and for a beginner, how long it can take to become hireable for the position, actually, with only using the platform?
It would depend what position.
Yeah, but as a junior data scientist, you know nothing about.
Our goal right now is to build out a curriculum that makes somebody employable as a data analyst. We're not there yet, to be honest. Okay. But it's to get to a very basic level is actually pretty fast. If you take the introduction to R course, that's only 4 hours, and then you have a decent understanding, like a basic understanding of the R language, and you can also follow on. There's an intermediate R course, and yeah.
Well, now we'll go back to we will go back to your entrepreneurial experience at the Techstars. Would you please explain your experience at Techstars in New York City, and did it help you to raise money actually?
Okay, maybe just to get some context, who amongst you is familiar with Techstars and what they do? Okay, so only a couple of people. So Techstars is a tech accelerator. They claim to be the best in the world. There are, like, let's say there are 3 really good ones in the US, which is Y Combinator, Techstars, and 500 startups. Now, when we started DataCamp, we knew that the US would be our biggest market. Most of our partnerships came from companies and people in the US. Most of our traffic is coming from, most of our paying customers are from there. So we also wanted to raise capital in the US. But we didn't have a network there, we didn't know anyone. So the question for us was like, how can we build a network fast enough, and how can we get some attention from US investors in an efficient way? And the managing director from Techstars New York reached out to us, and then we applied. It's pretty competitive. They have an acceptance rate of about 1%. And then we got into the program. So what happens when you get into Techstars is it's a 3-month program. They give you a little bit of money. But most of all, they surround you with very experienced entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs. And the first weeks are basically 40, 50 meetings with people who have a lot of experience, and they challenge you on every aspect of your business and your technology. And that was super helpful. Like, it's the best way to learn very quickly, but also it enabled us to get to know a lot of people very fast. And as you're in Techstars, you also get introduced to a lot of investors, so people know that there's some interest in the company. And the funny thing is, we raised $1 million two months after Techstars, but it didn't come through Techstars like directly. It was actually through another connection. Some of you may know Spark Central and
for David Keston.
So it was David Keston who introduced me to someone in San Francisco, who introduced me to someone in Boston, and that's how we got our current investment done. So it was like indirectly probably through Techstars as well, but not directly. Same question, because I was surprised. Because actually we were thinking about applying to Techstars, but then suddenly we got a message. We were featured on Product Hunt at some point, and apparently he scrapes Product Hunt and he looks for companies that do stuff in data science and a couple of other areas. And then he just reaches out to the ones he finds interesting. Yeah, so if you're interested, they're super transparent. So you can actually look at the exact deal they offer. They take 6% of equity, so it's substantial. And you can, and every company that gets into Techstars also can take an extra convertible note for 100K that converts at a 3 million cap. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, once again, maybe, yeah.
So the standard deal to be part of Techstars is they take 6% of equity in the company. And in return, they give you the mentorship, they introduce you to very high quality investors. They give you a small sum of money, $18,000. So that's the standard deal that you can take. But on top of that, they also offer a loan for $100,000. And that's not yet equity, but it converts into equity at a maximum valuation of 3 million. So that's very subjective. Yeah, we were really relatively early stage at the time, so the question for us was, will this giving up 6% make us more than 6 or 7% more valuable? And we thought that would for sure be the case, because the valuation after Techstars is typically in the 3 to 6 million range, just because you've gone through the program and just because you get, at one point in time, you get introduced to a lot of investors. So yeah, we thought it was worth it. We didn't hesitate. But it is a substantial part. Well, Techstars went through like an evolution there. Initially, they accepted teams that barely had a product, that were just in the MVP phase. At this point, most of the companies that join, in our class, almost all of them, actually had a working product that typically at least thousands, sometimes even millions of people were already using. So right now, most companies that join Techstars are actually in the post-MVP phase. It's really an acceleration program. So in terms of which one to apply for, my personal opinion, I would apply for only the top 3, which is Y Combinator, Techstars, and 500 startups, because there's a huge cost for the company in terms of equity, so you have to make sure it's worth it. Then in terms of how to get in, we were lucky, so I'm probably not the right person to ask, but my feeling was that the best way to get in is to focus on building your company and building the product. Because we literally only decided to apply 2 days before the deadline. And I had a conversation with the guy from Techstars, just openly telling him that we'd still have to write the application, and the fact that we weren't super eager and we played hard to get, but it was not played because it was free, made him more interested in what we. Yeah, it's human psychology. So, but my key advice would be, don't focus on it. focus on the product and the company. Because it helps to accelerate, but it's like you should get there without the acceleration. And if you focus on that, your chances increase, probably. We started a company with 3 guys. One of them I already knew for a long time. We sort of together, we started a non-profit education thing when we were still studying. So we knew each other really well, and yeah, through a mutual friend, we met the 3rd co-founder. And then actually, like, we started a company a year and a half ago, and 2 weeks after we started the company, we moved to South America in Chile with the 3 of us, and we lived in an apartment for 6 months together. So then after these 6 months, like, we survived with each other. Like, we knew, okay, this is gonna work in terms of the human relations. Because there's a program called Startup Chile. Who amongst you knows Startup Chile? So it's also an accelerator. But the difference is they give you $40,000 and they don't take any equity. What they expect in return is that you give some lectures at universities or help other startups, because their goal, it's a government-sponsored program, their goal is actually to raise PR and make Santiago, which is the capital of Chile, like the Silicon Valley. And to enable that, they basically attract tech entrepreneurs from all over the world, and they give them money equity free, and they ask them to stay there for 6 months and to become part of the ecosystem there. So that's why we went to Chile. That was an easy decision. Really well. We actually, until a week ago, we lived in the same house, even. So it's intense, I must say, but it's. Okay. So one of the co-founders is Dieter. He's the CTO. So he's the one who actually built the web platform, and initially did both front-end and back-end development. Then Martin is, he has a background as a commercial engineer, worked for Coca-Cola for a year, and he's really focused on sales and marketing for DataCamp. I also have a background as a commercial engineer, and then I did a PhD in statistics. So I'm somewhat in, and I did a coding bootcamp, so I'm somewhat in between the two. And right now we have more people who joined the team, obviously. But there was a good balance between the 3 of us in terms of skills. And yeah, I think that's super important, actually. Yes, so part of the company will move to Boston, but here in Belgium we're really looking for good developers and people who have a statistics PhD background and who like education. So we're really passionate about teaching other people. So yeah, if you're interested, go to datacamp.com/careers. If you think about online education, there are basically 2 sides of it. There's generic platforms. The biggest ones are Coursera and edX. And what they do is basically they bring a live classroom online, very much in the way that if you look at the first movies that were made, it was a theater play, but they put it on a film. So that's basically what Coursera and edX are doing. They film a professor and they put that online. And the advantage is you can do it for a broad range of topics. So you have courses on history, on programming, on data science, all kinds of. So they have great teachers, but they're not optimizing the learning experience specifically for each vertical. Then if you think about the other side of online education is more vertically focused. So if you want to learn a language, you can go to Duolingo. Or if you want to learn how to do HTML, CSS, you can go to Codecademy, Code School, Team Treehouse. So they are super vertically focused. They're optimizing the learning experience for that vertical. And what DataCamp does is being vertically focused, on data science. And at this point, there is no other company that's doing that. But we do have competition in a way from courses on Coursera who are focused on data science. So what we try to do is, not only try, what we've done is we partner with courses on Coursera, where the videos are on Coursera, but the interactive exercise sessions are on DataCamp. So we've did that for 2 Coursera courses right now, and there's a 3rd one on the way. And we now did the same thing with edX. We partnered with the Intro to R course on edX together with Microsoft. So I really see us as complementary to the generic learning platforms. And there's a potential threat from vertically focused platforms like Code School, Code Academy, that they will broaden their scope and that they would include data science as well. But they're not really focused on that right now because there is enough growth in interactively teaching web development at this point. Yeah, I think like artificial intelligence, I wouldn't dare to question Elon Musk. So he's definitely right on that. I think data science is somewhat different. I think it really depends on what you do. So if we want to know whether a green or a red button on our website converts best, and we do that in an automatic way, that's okay. If you're taking important strategic decisions, or if Amazon wants to tell you, hey, and there's some machine learning in the background, hey, you bought this product, so you're probably interested in that one. Why wouldn't you automate that? And even if you don't understand exactly why you get that recommendation, if you know it works, that's cool. If you're building a financial model, or if you're like testing a drug, it's probably a good idea to actually understand what's going on. So I think it depends on the sector and the application, whether it's dangerous or not. Now, what we try to do with DataCamp, to finalize the answer, is definitely make people understand as much as possible what's behind these models, for example, in machine learning. We're going to launch probably in the next few weeks a machine learning course as well, if you're interested in the topic. So we're in the transition phase, just to be clear. So we're going to open an office in Boston next month. So we're not there yet, but the plan is somewhat similar to what a lot of Belgian startups are doing, like Spark Central or like Showpad, or so they basically keep all development in Belgium because there are a lot of talented people here, and quite frankly, they cost substantially less. And they build out their sales and marketing team in the US. We'll have a like software engineering in the US as well, but solely focused on marketing. So like a growth hacker, if you will. But the development of the core product and development of the courses, that will be in Belgium. Because it's astonishing. I didn't know that until 2 months ago, but it can be like 30, 40, 50% more expensive in the US for a very similar type of position. So I think when we were thinking about the US, there are a couple of good places for a company like DataCamp: San Francisco, New York, Boston. First filter was we want to have an office in Belgium, so it's more convenient to be on the East Coast. So East Coast would then mean Boston or New York. We were in New York in Techstars, but we basically decided that we would pick the location where we would find the most interesting investor. And that turned out to be Accomplice and its partner Chris Lynch, who has a lot of experience in big data. So that's why we decided to move to Boston. It's also a little bit cheaper than New York. And you have MIT and Harvard, so for recruiting there's a lot of talent there as well. Boston is great for education. You have a lot of good schools there. MIT, Harvard. I think that domain expertise matters a lot. Okay. And what we see from DataCamp's perspective is domain experts who want to acquire either the programming skill or knowledge about statistical methodology. Because a data scientist is typically defined as somebody who has 1, programming experience, 2, some understanding of statistics and mathematics, and 3, domain expertise. And I think most new data scientists will come from domain experts who become more, who learn programming skills and data science skills rather than the other way around. So I think it's super important. I think the skill gap is huge, and I think that's why we're seeing so much traction. Even we got a lot of traction when the product was in say MVP state. And so there's a study of McKinsey, and they estimate by 2018 that there will be 200,000 hardcore data scientists lacking and 1.5 million data-savvy managers. So it is expected that the skill gap will only increase, and yeah, I think education is the way to solve that. Yeah, so the business model is really simple. Anyone can start a course on DataCamp for free. It's a freemium model. Some courses are 100% free. Some courses only the first chapter is free. And if you find value in the courses, you can become a subscriber. If you're a professional, that costs you $25 a month. If you're a student, only $9 a month. And what we've noticed is that we got a lot of interest from people in companies who have said, hey, my company's paying, or I want this for an entire team. So last week we launched DataCamp for groups, which is yeah, basically a way to learn with a team on DataCamp. So going forward, I think for us the business side will become more and more important, but we're really focused at this point on professional consumers. Because the need is big enough that these people will even pay themselves just to take the courses. And we can see just based on their email address that we have customers from all large tech companies, from all large financial institutions. So people in these institutions are already using DataCamp, but the institutions themselves are not yet paying. So that's the goal to achieve. There's not a typical day, and that's what I really enjoy. But I mostly work from when I wake up till when I go to sleep. I don't wake up early, typically. We use Slack, and I think like we're probably gonna ban email internally because it's getting too much. Yeah, but mostly Slack for communication. It works for us. We're with 5 people full time now, and now that we've raised some money, our goal is to grow to 10 in the next few months. Okay. As soon as possible, actually. So if you're interested in applying, or you know really good developers or statisticians. It has been huge. So I had some experience doing statistical programming, but I had no real programming experience. So I learned the basics excuse me, during the bootcamp. And afterwards, it enabled me to build a really, really shitty, but it was working first version of DataCamp. And now the added value mostly for me is that I understand the technical side and I can think, excuse me, that I understand the problems, I understand the challenges they're going through. I'm a really bad programmer still, and I don't do any programming anymore. But I understand the problems, and I can. The way the product is built also impacts the business, and I wouldn't have been able to understand that without going through the bootcamp. But that's a personal choice. Like, if you want to become a really good programmer, I think a bootcamp is a great way to start that process. Yeah. At this point, A substantial percentage of our users is direct traffic. So that means people who know DataCamp or have heard from it from other people. So that's great. The second large influx of people is through Google. So one of the co-founders has put a lot of effort in writing great blog posts, and that is paying off, and people are finding DataCamp through those. And then the third one right now, but it was the most important one initially, is through partnerships. So we have a lot of partnership with other educational platforms, because when we started, we were basically thinking, okay, we need to get people who want to learn about statistics and R on the platform, so let's get them where they are. And they are taking courses on Coursera, so let's offer something valuable to that professor on Coursera. So it's good for him, and we get all the users. We get visibility for the platform to all those users. And that's still a huge channel for us. In terms of geography, it's US is number 1, India is number 2.
India?
Yes. So in terms of city, it's actually mostly what you would expect. New York is 1 and Bangalore is 2. UK is big. Yeah, and that's a very long tail. Yes, we do. We try to track everything people do on the platform. So every time somebody submits an exercise on DataCamp, that gets saved to the database, and it allows for product improvements that are purely data-driven. We try to make a lot of decisions based on the data. So, like, one of the questions was about the co-founder relationship. The 3 of us have a substantial ego, but a way to deal with that is to take decisions based on data and in a very rational way. And step 1 is collecting the data. Davy Kestis was super helpful, because it was basically through him that we eventually got the investment a few months ago.
Thanks a lot. If there is no more question.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Maybe you wanted to add something?
No, just thanks, Jonathan. Thank you for your time. And now let's grab a beer, and you have probably more question, more personal question. Do not hesitate. You will stay?
Yes.
You will stay? Okay.
For another beer.
So
Perfect.
let's go to the bar.
Thanks.